Describe that a little more for someone who has never done ketamine. Is there something that you're specifically thinking about prior to the experience that you're trying to achieve? And then during the experience, what are you actually thinking about? And how does that translate to your sort of new perspective post
Yeah.
experience?
So you might not have seen this one because I posted it this week, but I just posted about my first ketamine experience, which actually was through
I
Field
did. It
Trip
was
LA.
very good.
Oh, you
Yeah.
did? Okay, thank
Yeah.
you. So you can probably read between the lines there of how difficult it is to write about a ketamine experience, really any psychedelic experience in general. It's been a really fun challenge for me as a writer. I enjoy writing and I enjoy challenging writing.
And just to
Um,
set the context, so this blog post that you just came out with a few days ago was about your first experience with Field Trip, the company you worked for. Had you had
that's right.
prior ketamine experiences
No,
to this? Okay, so this was
no.
the first one. Okay, so this is very
Yeah,
fresh
I
then.
went all in. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I had been exposed to ketamine quite a bit just through Burning Man and party situations. It's definitely like a party drug at this point. In a lot of places, it's as common as alcohol. People really do lean on it for just letting go. It's a dissociative anesthetic and it is hallucinogenic. So it can be the effects of alcohol at really light doses. And I had been exposed to it, but I've always been careful with synthetics. I haven't had the greatest experiences with them, especially in like social contexts. I call myself a plant medicine poster child. I think that's really my medicine. But so for that reason, among others, I decided, and working with Field Trip and being at the forefront of psychedelic medicine and research and some of the most brilliant therapists in the world in this space that I get to talk to every day and pick their brains, and they're designing our programs in our centers. So thought it was no better setting to have my first experience. So I was waiting for LA to open up, which was this summer, and got myself on the books and went through the Explore program, which is a 2 week program with 2 dosing sessions and 2 integration sessions. And so yeah, I can speak to that experience, or I can try to. I, it's with one of our amazing CIIS trained therapists who really walked me through what to expect going like ketamine and how to prepare for it, how to integrate, which I knew intuitively a lot of this because I work in psychedelics and have had plenty of bigger experiences with other psychedelics, but ketamine is its own thing. So I think that's what I took away from this program that I'm really going to apply into our portal technology and our education materials to our patients, is that there's a different level of expectation and preparation I think you need going into it. And that it was a glaring contrast to my LSD, 5-MeO DMT, and mushroom experiences. And I speak to a little bit of that in the blog of some biological reasons why that might be. One being that ketamine acts as an NMDA blocker, which activates glutamate or makes glutamate more accessible in the brain, so it has no direct effect on serotonin, whereas mushrooms, LSD, 5-MeO are
Mm-hmm.
all more serotonin activating. And so, because of that, ketamine can be very much a neutral experience, very dissociative, very detached, and just completely like unemotional. And that's really what it was. So, when I got that intramuscular injection and I'm in my fabulous, like, comfortable and zero gravity chair and weighted blanket and eye shades and Bose headphones, like, I'm ready. And I just like slowly ease in, and you reach this threshold with all psychedelic experiences that you're at a wall of I let go or will I cling. And if you have the grip of your mind that I do, then you can always cling if you really want to. But I've learned, like, I've met that wall enough that the value in letting it go and breezing past it is really where the healing and growth lies. So I was able to do that here, and it just completely, like, my body dissolved, my awareness of the room dissolved, and it just turned, like, the best way to describe it was an abyss. Like, just your awareness expands to this like ever expanding abyss of just experience in formlessness. And I tried to drop in like personal aspects of my life and see what the experience had to tell me, but it just they didn't fit there. They were just small little dream things in this massive world. And so it's very difficult to describe without experiencing it yourself. But I do think
And was it the same
that,
in both of those experiences?
so the first one was, I think it was getting my feet wet a little bit of understanding what ketamine is. So it wasn't as deep. And then the second one was really deep. I was completely gone. In the beginning, I thought it was so intense that at one point I thought I was being wheeled into an emergency room because something went wrong. And I just was completely at bliss, like peace, did not care. Like I just, the idea of dying or losing this, like this form that we call body, like just meant nothing to me. And it had nothing to do with like awareness and consciousness that I actually was experiencing at that time. It just, you're able to completely detach from like your physical form and your human experience in a way that I think is, it's a little off balancing, but it's also really powerful and can be really formative if you handle it the right way afterwards. Like I think it, and this is what the difference with field trip compared to other ketamine clinics and maybe other routes to these experiences, like doing this in a clinical setting and with a trained therapist is really important because the integration, even I've done plenty of high doses by myself and integrated on my own before, but I really needed that in this case because it was drastically different. And I was like really surprised with my reaction after. Usually I'm like a Buddha sitting in the woods after psychedelics. But after this, I went home and I watched Sex in the City for 2 hours. Like it was like so like not myself. I was just very odd and I didn't know how to handle it. And so my therapist really helped me a couple of days later with weaving some of this because it was clear my reaction was just trying to get away from it because it was just too intense. Just to feel that level of letting go of yourself, that like our ego and our human experience is such a safety comfort zone for us. And so I talked to our director of research about this too to get some clarity because I know because he speaks a lot to the egoless state there is nothing. There's no emotion there. There's really nothing there. And there's actually a lot of beauty in that because goodness and badness is just perceptions we make with our minds. And if you go to that place where there's nothing there and there's no good, no bad, just completely neutral, no judgment, no perception of existence, it helps you see that our reality is really driven by like our mind and putting labels on things and putting its own perception around things.
So practically speaking, after having an experience like that, when it's weeks later or months later now, and you might be feeling some anxiety of some type, are you actively making a decision to recall the memory of that experience?
Yes. So that kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. The being able to detach when I'm in a state of charged or I'm in a state of anxiety or I have that productivity shamer coming up. It's like the experience formed. It really did, like the idea of expanding the mind. It really feels like that happened. Like I have access to these new connections in my brain that like take me to this expansive, spacious place where I'm that little orb of light that's just floating through this human experience and looking at the dream of reality. And it's really liberating. Like at the time, right afterwards, it was really scary. Like just the idea that like everything is in our mind and like we create reality and like nothing is real, and that whole nihilistic thing that you can get out of psychedelics if you go too deep on the philosophical route of it. But the actual felt sensation and like therapeutic benefits you can get from that state just periodically, like when you need it, like just separating from a really charged emotion, like that nothing state is actually really great.
Yeah.
It's not that great when you have access to feelings of like love and beauty and art and things that you really want to feel. But that ketamine space, I'm calling it, just this like wide expanse, full experience, full but formless world, is one that really helps me to look down on things and see it from a different perspective so that I'm not tangled with it.